Chapter 50:18. At this moment, the young emperor's eyebrows fluctuated fiercely for a moment. He knew that the heavenly gate, which was dusty for an unknown number of years, was actually shaken. His heart beats a drum. Ahem. Coughing out a mouthful of divine blood, Jian Wushuang's aura was completely wilted, and his chest was already sunken. He was completely emptied of the immortal body by the emperor's luck. Facing Bian Ziyuan, it would be difficult for him to fight. There was a cloud, and the violent aura diffused in the entire void. Bian Ziyuan lifted off and came to him. The endless exquisite water mist is also fully displayed at this moment. Are you ruining your luck, or do you want me to do it? Bian Ziyuan said with a gloomy smile. Raising his hand to wipe the corners of his mouth, Jian Wushuang's expression remained calm, without sorrow or joy. You know. Hearing this, his expression instantly turned gloomy again. From beginning to end, Jian Wushuang never put him in his eyes, and never even acted as an opponent. A little Yangxian walked out of the road of bones under the river of blood with an impossible posture, swept almost all enemies, beheading opponents dozens of times. This impossible posture made Bian Zi deeply fear and jealous. And the best way to solve the fear and jealousy deep in the heart is to destroy it from the root. Linglong water mist has become completely violent, and the power that is enough to crush the heavens under his feet bursts out. Behind Bian Ziyuan, with the same force of 10,000 heavens, a statue of water mist was realized. Hundreds of thousands of plumes of water mist condensed, and the water mist treasure phase that almost spanned the entire emptiness opened his true eyes. True eyes are red, with pure killing. Die, I will never forget you. Bian Ziyuan smiled strangely, then his arms shook heavily. Along with the shaking of both arms, Shui Mist Baoxiang opened his palms together and slammed into Jian Wushuang. So under the broken heavenly gate, Jian Wushuang stubbornly resisted the terrible injury. The real strength of rank 6 Dian Immortal, bombarded, even the immortal body can hardly bear it. Coupled with Jian Wushuang's mad use of Emperor Qiyun twice, he was already weakened. If he were not Jian Wushuang, he would have died thousands of times. Boom. At this moment, even the nihilism was trembling, and Jian Wushuang, who was already at the end of the crossbow, could not move at all, and could only endure the pain caused by every blow. His immortal body was embedded in the heavenly gate fiercely, and Bian Ziyuan manipulated Shui Mist Baoxiang to bombard with punches. The immortal body, which is stronger than the immortal, has been completely shattered, and the bones have been shattered into powder. If it were not for the protection of Zhu Tianyixian, Jian Wushuang's immortal body would have been completely dismembered. Along with a heavy punch, the cracks on the Tianmen increased greatly, almost to the point of faintly broken. The emperor, who was watching from a distance, felt like a drum, and he smelled a kind of aura fluctuation that did not belong to the borderless sea. That kind of breath fluctuation, when he was not exiled to the Sea of Endless, was an extraordinary breath. That is, outside. After Tianmen, there is the outside world. Quickly, Ziyuan, blast open the Tianmen with all your strength. Because of his excitement, the young emperor's voice was already hoarse. However, Bian Ziyuan, who only wanted to kill Jian Wushuang, didn't hear any other voices at all, and just killed with all his strength. A sword cut quietly appeared behind him, and then vented crazily. Zheng. The sound of heaven and earth, the golden iron trembling, the incomparable sword cut off the right arm of Shui Mist Baoxiang, and slashed towards the side without any reduction. He, who was already crazy, didn't care about the movement behind him at all. When he waited for the reaction, his entire right arm had been completely severed. Bian Ziyuan was frightened and angered, clutching his broken arm and turning back. Jiang Li held the sword in one hand, and his eyes were extremely heroic and indifferent. You move him again, there is no place to bury him. A large amount of sacred blood overflowed from the tips of his fingers, and the corner of his eyes twitched. He found that the broken right arm could not heal at all. He slowly backed away, already knowing that Jiang Li was not easy. Seeing Jiang Li severely inflicted Bian Ziyuan, Yang Fan did not stop at the slightest bit to go to help Jian Wushuang. But how could Heiyun, as he said, slapped him away, and then went straight to Jian Wushuang. Only crazy greed, luck, Emperor Luck, and Emperor Bone were left in Heiyun's eyes. Once he gets it again, He will surely be able to ascend the emperor ahead of time. By then, who can stop him? His body turned into billions of chaotic auras, and quickly wrapped around Jian Wushuang. Bian Ziyuan was very angry when he saw this scene, but he didn't dare to say anything, because even if the black cloud was not good, it would still be a quasi-emperor. Crushing him is as simple as crushing an ant. After swallowing the deep hatred in his heart, he then continued to confront Jiang Li. The Tianmen was extremely shattered, and the figure of Heiyun finally condensed in front of the Tianmen, looking greedily and madly, already embedded in the Tianmen, like a sword wushuang of a bloodman. He clearly felt that Jian Wushuang's aura had weakened to the extreme, and it was impossible to have a backhand. Heiyun is greedy, he no longer has any reason, opened his mouth wide and planned to swallow it directly into his belly. But the next moment, 2 strands of scarlet golden light scattered in the Tianmen depression, and Jian Wushuang quietly opened his true eyes. Heiyun was almost so scared that he knelt directly in the void, his face was bloodless, and his legs trembled. The younger generation dare to fight for glory? Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice, "There is supreme authority in the words." Heiyun's face was bloodless, and slowly backed away. "Big, sir, I will leave now and will never fight you again." "Hurry up." Shen anger resounded. Heiyun nodded hurriedly, backing away. The next moment, when he retreated to a certain distance, he suddenly smiled gloomily. Then he directly raised his arms, and a huge chaotic emperor appeared, and then slammed into the heaven. Boom! Eternal silence and nothingness trembled, and the Chaos Emperor seat was fiercely embedded in the heavenly gate, and Jiang Wushuang's figure was wiped out. Heiyun laughed frantically, raised the Chaos Throne with both arms, and smashed into the heavenly gate frantically. The Tianmen, which has been in the dust for eternity, is now filled with cracks, and at the same time, the newly born Tianmen cracks are about to break the Tianmen. The young emperor couldn't hide his throbbing, and shouted vigorously, "The gate of heaven is split, it's time to leave this borderless sea." Heiyun also smelled the unusual aura fluctuations, so he smashed the heavenly gate more frantically. The Tianmen was broken even more severely, and it seemed that it could completely open at any time. But in the next moment, an abnormality emerges. Heiyun's complexion suddenly solidified, and he found that after the Chaos Emperor seat was embedded in the heavenly gate, he couldn't make any further progress. Hundreds of millions of jongs of sunshine burst out suddenly, and instantly shattered the chaotic throne of one party and the bombardment. Along with the shattering of the Emperor seat, there is also the Tianmen that has been sealed for eternity. Chapter 50-19. The Tianmen shattered, and this silent and solidified sea of immortality seemed to have also been awakened to its vitality, roaring over. The pitch-black sea water rolled up hundreds of millions of waves of dust, almost as high as the sky. At this moment, the entire endless sea of no edges was completely boiling. The heavenly gate was shattered and the dusty passage opened. This was the invisible and intangible sea of nothingness, colliding with the real outside atmosphere. Large swaths of the borderless sea evaporated, and cracks began to appear at the edge. All this will inevitably die. Heiyun was already speechless in horror. He felt an unprecedented breath, a real breath. The Chaos Emperor was easily torn apart, and all their eyes were concentrated in one place at this moment. In front of the broken Tianmen, Jian Wushuang's original fragmented fairy body was now intact. His naked chest was completely covered by the Xuanhe pattern, and his long black hair completely turned into red gold, dancing wildly in the air. The 2 true eyes also turned into the purest red gold. Huang can't look directly at him, squeezing the way of heaven, and frustrating the ages. Jian Wushuang at this moment surpassed all Daangxian's imagination. Heiyun couldn't even raise the heart of escape, standing on the ground like dead ashes. The young emperor also changed from initial craziness to trembling, and he smelled the most familiar breath. That kind of breath belongs to the real emperor. Bian Ziyuan was completely stunned, and only deep jealousy and madness remained in his eyes. Obviously he is an ant-like fairy cultivator, but he slays all enemies with his own power. How can this be what a celestial fairy did? Huang couldn't look directly at Jian Wushuang, no breath at all. He slowly raised his palm and looked very satisfied with the flow of rich and extremely strong air. This immortal body is very good, enough to be used by the emperor. The exit that completely left the borderless sea was right behind him, but all Dayan immortals did not dare to leave at all, even to move their bodies. Heiyun swallowed his throat with difficulty, and from the corner of his eye he glanced at the side of Bianziyuan, suddenly making a living. The next moment, he gritted his teeth abruptly, directly waved his hand to push Bianzi far, and threw it at Jian Wushuang. At the same time, his figure turned into an aura of hundreds of millions of chaos, sweeping across the wilds. Because this was so fast, Bianziyuan didn't react, and he was pushed to Jian Wufang. Puff! A faint sound swept across his body, and his pupils suddenly opened to their maximum. The unspeakable pain, as well as the passing of luck and Xianyuan, made him look towards his chest subconsciously. There, it was completely broken, and the source of Qi luck was completely dried up in an instant. And this is all because of one finger. Jian Wushuang took a finger in the air and let Bianzi fall away, and the supreme luck like a colorful glow passed through his back, unabated and shrouded in the endless sea. Shrouded, contracted. The black cloud that had turned into a chaotic atmosphere and fleeing directly showed its true shape. He was completely desperate, roaring loudly, but in the end he couldn't change the ending. Jian Wushuang stretched out his hand and brushed his hand, and supreme fortune directly crushed Bianziyuan into powder. Immediately afterwards, Heiyun was caught in front of him. "Emperor, Emperor, please read for the sake of my hard work in cultivation, let me go." Heiyun's face was as grey as death, and he had already seen this Jian Wushuang, not by Jian Wushuang. He was unmoved, only contempt and indifference were left in his eyes, just like looking at ants. "Are you trying to relieve yourself of luck, or do you want me to do it?" Heiyun was completely desperate. He knew that once it died this time, it was truly gone. "If you don't work, the emperor will do it. I will relieve my luck." After saying these last words, Heiyun didn't say a word. He died very simply, leaving no trace. Jian Wushuang was very satisfied with this. He waved his hand, and a pair of red gold eyes slowly swept across. He was the supreme existence, no one dared to look directly. In the end, he looked at the young emperor who was retreating, and with a wave of his hand, he grabbed it. Looking at him, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with doubt. "I seem to have seen you." The young emperor's eyes twitched. I am." Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted directly. "It doesn't matter who you are, what matters is your ending, only death." After saying this, Jian Wushuang did not hesitate, and squeezed him directly with a palm. Everything is done in a flash, and it can even be said that it is not a waste of effort. He turned his neck slightly, and then suddenly pulled Fu Yao in front of him, but he didn't do anything. After a flash of doubt in his eyes, he was relieved. "You are still his friends, I won't do it, you go back." There was a deep panic in Fu Yao's eyes, but she didn't step back, but trembled. You are not him, please return him." "Oh, it's really interesting. Do you think I will let him come back?" Jian Wushuang's mouth moved slightly, revealing a sly smile. "The owner of this fairy body will be me from now on, not him." After he finished speaking, he appeared uninterested, and directly waved Fu Yao away, turning around to look at the passage behind him. Behind the broken heavenly gate is a passage leading to the real outside world. At this moment, even he was moved. It's been too long, and he almost forgets the past. Heaven did not know how many rebirths it entered, and the outside world did not know what it looked like. Now, he can finally go out. Just when he was about to step into the passage with one step, two sword intents coming from the sky rushed towards him. Jian Wu had a cold face on both sides, turned around, just a scan of his real glance, and suddenly the Wuxi sword intent was shattered and dissipated. Jiang Lian backed away thousands of feet at the same time, vomiting blood, and her breath became weak. Suppressing the murderous intent in his eyes, he did not rush to kill in the end, turning around and preparing to enter the passage. But the next moment, hundreds of millions of colorful Huayun suddenly burst out from the depths of the channel, shining endlessly. Jian Wuming was shocked, directly raised his hand to block, and his figure flew back instantly. "Don't come unharmed, Emperor Zhenwu. The endless and leisurely breath covers everything, and this ancient voice seems to contain the most logical rules, and the heavens begin to be born." But after hearing this voice, Jian was double-faced color followed once, his fists clenched tightly. Accompanied by that endless and leisurely breath, a thin old man wearing a black robe stepped into the endless sea, stepping on colorful huayun. It was as if there were Dao rules flowing through him, and Dao Shenwen was slowly circulating. His eyes were cloudy, and everything could not be reflected in his pupils. Seeing this figure, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. Yu Chang, are you here to stop me? Responsibility, Emperor Zhenwu is no wonder. The thin old man nodded slightly, his face was quite kind. Chapter 50-20. Jian Wushuang, who was originally arrogant, flashed across a pair of golden eyes at this moment. He seemed to think of something again, and did not act rashly. The colorful huayun disappeared. This mysterious Yu Chang, who had been following Emperor Zhen Wuyang, had no fear even when facing Jian Wushuang, who had already been occupied by Emperor Zhen Wuyang. After seeing his true face, Jiang Lian returned her eyes to be rounded, fear flashed in her eyes, and murmured in her mouth, Yu Chang. The collision of intangible and intangible with reality will only lead to destruction. The sea of boundlessness is on the verge of shattering, and even nothingness has given birth to fine cracks. Upon seeing this, Yu Chang waved his hand to block the external passage behind him with atmospheric transport, which restored the borderless sea to its original state. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, his incomparable killing intent burst out. Are you not afraid that I will leave you here? I'm afraid, naturally I won't come, he said, his voice was peaceful and full of an unspeakable aura. Are you really going to fight me? Yu Chang said, if you insist on leaving here, then this battle cannot be avoided. Jian Wushuang stopped talking, his mouth curled up, and then he laughed loudly. Come on, stop, that emperor will continue our battle 10 years ago. There will be no victory or defeat in that battle. Yu Chang said softly again, I won't let you fall. He heard the words, his face flashed with anger. You despise me. Yu Chang said, don't dare, but for the sake of Emperor Wuyang, you can only stay here. You are looking for death. Jian Wushuang was already moving really angry, just stay here today. After he finished speaking, the infinite emperor's luck completely burst, and the unimaginable Dihui was enveloped in the boundless void. Under this emperor's glory, even Jiang Lian's frightening existence felt inconvenient to move, and Yanli could hardly be transferred. Entrusted with the immortal body, Emperor Zhenwu was able to completely release his emperor's luck. Emperor Wei Huang, Yanli died. The boundless sea is the place where the rules of the heavens are destroyed. If it is replaced by the outside world, I am afraid that the emperor's luck he released can instantly wipe out thousands of heavens. Emperor Zhenwu is a real emperor, not a quasi-emperor like Heiyun and Yu Yao who have just realized the emperor's luck. The presence of the emperor made everything sad. Yu Chang's face was unwavering, as if he was not in front of an emperor, but an old friend. Yu Chang, I take your own life. The original Jian Wushuang was no longer there, and the immortal body was captured by Emperor Zhenwu. He said angrily, the giant voice is heavy. At this moment, his whole body is wrapped in the luck of godless king, and his true eyes without sadness and joy shoot out golden light. A pure to extreme long sword condensed by the emperor's luck, then he was held in his palm, the tip of the sword pointed directly at Yu Chang. I also ask Emperor Zhenwu to keep his hands. Yu Chang stood with his hands behind him, smiling slightly. Emperor Zhenwu let out a cold snort, and the emperor's long sword in his hand slashed directly forward. In an instant, the eternal extinguishment was unbearable, completely distorted and collapsed. This seemingly simple straight cut, but it contains endless emperor's luck, enough to make the quasi-emperor nirvana under this sword. Facing this sword, Yu Chang stood there, still without waves. The next moment he moved, the palm under the black robe flicked directly in front of him, and suddenly a deep ripple appeared like a mirror surface. Then, the emperor came with a sword, bringing the power of destruction. The two collided, and a strange scene appeared. This sword didn't pierce the ripples, but plunged directly into the mirror of the ripples, disappearing without a trace. Emperor Zhenwu would never think that this blow would work, and at the same time, he manipulated Jian Wushuang's immortal body to storm away. The sword of the emperor slashed heavily. In an instant, the sword intent of great horror trembled. The sword intent is divided into 9 verticals, and each vertical is squeezing towards Yu Chang with the momentum of the sky. The Emperor is brilliant. At this moment, Yu Chang's body was quietly surging with a layer of mysterious black patterns, full of a barren, ancient aura. That kind of breath would sink even when Dianxian glanced at it. Then, he stood still, and the mysterious black patterns all over his body spontaneously formed a barrier. Boom! The giant sound was so loud that Emperor Zhenwu retreated 100 feet, and the enchantment of Yu Chang's body also collapsed, and also retreated 100 feet. The splendor of the Emperor, sparks overflowing. Hundreds of billions of miles all over them have become a battlefield, and no Dian immortal can approach them. Jiang Lian returned and swayed the 3 of them, all of whom had been stirred out of the battlefield by the engulfed Dihui. Yu Chang, let me leave, you know that you can't restrain me. Emperor Zhenwu said in a deep voice. The Emperor's sword in his hand was already in front of him. Emperor Zhenwu, where your responsibilities are, you can't leave, even if I stay here, you can't live without half a step. Yu Chang nodded and said, with determination in his voice. The Emperor Zhenwu was already out of anger when he heard the words, the eagle dog is so comfortable under the seat of Zhenwuyang. You know how long you have been the eagle dog for him. What he asks you to do, you will only do it, regardless of whether it is correct or not. He said again, those are not my responsibility. Then your duty is to create endless evil karma with Zhenwuyang. Emperor Zhenwu sneered, what you have done is enough to be destroyed thousands of times, death is not a pity. Yu Chang said nothing, and finally said, it's useless to talk more and keep sleeping. Why do you want me to fall asleep? It is his Zhenwuyang who should fall asleep. I am more qualified to sit in the heavenly court and control the entire big division domain, Emperor Zhenwu said furiously. The whole body of Emperor Hui had completely burned. You guys should sleep here most. The Emperor's eyes burned, and hundreds of thousands of Emperor splendor burst out, causing everything to be destroyed. The void that became eternal and nihilistic began to give birth to fine dark golden cracks. At the same time, the borderless sea began to return to tide and quickly evaporated. Emperor Hui condenses like the essence, is rising. The next moment, Emperor Zhenwu held the sword of the Emperor and stabbed at Yu Chang. The entire emptiness has been covered by the aura of pure gold, and the heavenly rules belonging to Emperor Zhenwu are being constructed, providing him with endless energy. And Yu Chang is no longer as indifferent as before. The mysterious black pattern rises to the sky, with a barren, ancient atmosphere. The 2 supreme luck fought each other, and then broke out completely. Break the world with the sword. The meaning of red gold, against the ancient black pattern. At this moment, even the Emperor's avenue was directly collapsed in this level of impact. Words can no longer describe the terrifying and grand scale of this battle, which even eclipses the duel between quasi-emperors. The rules of the avenue are peeling off, and the sea of no edge that was originally a disorderly land is disappearing in a large area at this moment. Chapter 50-21. There is no place in the void 10,000 territories, the demon land of the immortal state, or even the barren secret world that can really withstand the battle of the Emperor. Immortal Yang is the existence that suppresses the Tao of Heaven, and Immortal Yang is the existence that creates the luck of the Tao of Heaven, and the Emperor. No Yangxian or even Dianxian knew what the Emperor could do, they were too powerful to describe in words. The sea is gone, and the ancient heavens are broken only in their thoughts. They are so powerful that they have no meaning, and they even exist for some reason. The Emperor was angry and everything died. Even Jiang Lian, who was 100 billion miles away, and the others were all affected, their throats were sweet, and they coughed up a mouthful of blood. At this moment, the eternal emptiness and emptiness are all obscured by the 2 avenues of luck that blend together. The red gold blended with the ancient black patterns, forming a shattered dark gold. The broken Emperor Tiandao slowly dissipated, and the 2 looked at each other, and no one had even backed away. Jian Wushuang looked at Yu Chang coldly. The immortal body was rapidly shattering and repairing at the same time. As for Yu Chang, although his complexion was still calm, his reddish face also showed that he was not relaxed. The edges of the black robe on his body were a little broken. Although there is no longer a confrontation, the 2 unspeakable powers of heaven are still competing. Emperor Zhenwu stared at him, and then lifted his palms slightly, a breath that was even more unreasonable to detach from everything, covering the sky. He has some regrets on his face. I wanted to leave here, after sealing Zhenwuyang town, let you follow me. But, it's a pity, Yu Chang. Yu Chang smiled, not commenting on this. He said again, you stay here and I will let Zhenwuyang go with you. At the end of this sentence, there is no communication. The real battle has begun. Don't look directly at the emperor. At this moment, the crimson-golden Emperor Hui swept up, covering the void and even the boundless sea. Emperor Zhenwu raised his arms flat. The sword in his hand was as powerful as the emperor's way of heaven, and it was extremely bright. On his back, 6 intangible luck was born. Accompanied by the intangible luck of the 6 directions are the closed eyes of the emperor. Every true eye hangs above Zhenwu Emperor's body, as if he has been silent for endless years, and may wake up at any time. Seeing this scene, Yu Chang's expression began to be solemn. He had never imagined that Emperor Zhenwu, who was exiled and slept in the borderless sea, would grow to such a point. 6 ways and 6 days true emperor. Emperor Zhenwu smiled slightly, and the emperor's eyes around him quietly opened around. Like the sky that encompasses all things, the open round of emperor eyes is nothing. Yu Chang, can you withdraw? Don't retreat. He whispered, his whole body surging again with endless black patterns. Emperor Zhenwu no longer speaks much, holding his sword and pointing at Yu Chang. Exit. In an instant, Yu Chang's figure was reflected in the eyes of the emperor's eyes that opened alone, and then hundreds of millions of invisible power came out of the emperor's eyes, twisting and moving forward. This invisible power ignores any emperor's luck, ignores any emperor's heavenly path, and even if they are both emperors, it can't be avoided at all. Facing the invisible force that covered the sky, Yu Chang no longer knew when he had an extra long sword in his hand. The body of the sword is black and blue, with dense black patterns engraved. Accompanied by the appearance of this long sword, he held the sword to fight. But a treacherous scene appeared. The invisible power that burst out of Emperor Genzahen's eyes ignored Yu Chang's offensive and poured onto him. At this moment, only invisible power is surging in the emptiness of nothingness. Emperor Zhenwu didn't make any more moves, staring straight ahead. Yu Chang's figure was completely annihilated in the power of the great power released by the first real eye of the emperor. He couldn't even resist, his body was completely shredded into powder, and then disappeared. With the disappearance of the first real eye of the emperor, the surging invisible power also disappeared. Yu Chang's figure was crushed to pieces, and his nirvana was destroyed. He didn't even leave any breath. But Emperor Zhenwu didn't rush to leave, he calmly looked forward, as if he knew what was going to happen next. After dozens of breaths, a breeze quietly rolled up in the emptiness covered by the emperor's luck. Then the breath that didn't know when it appeared quietly condensed. A kind of barren, ancient luck spread, like a billion stars descending. Wearing a black robe, a thin figure appeared. His face was silent and calm, as if nothing had happened just now. Emperor Zhenwu, stop obsessing about it anymore, you won't leave with me. Even if I have grown to the level of Zhenwuyang, I can't leave. Emperor Zhenwu sneered. Even the true emperor of the 6 paths and 6 days can't rush out of this endless sea. You have a try, Yu Chang said. Then I'll give it a try, Zhenwu Emperor shouted, and the giant sounded loudly. Then, the second real eye of the emperor also quietly opened, scattering out a vast golden light. With the promised golden Mang body added, the Zhenwu Emperor at this moment is even more unpredictable, more pure than before. Even the immortal body couldn't support this avenue of luck at all, and it began to shatter quickly. But at the same time it was broken, it was quickly repaired, and it was in a state of subtle balance. The golden light was shining, and Emperor Zhenwu moved, igniting the general trend of the sky and crashing forward. With a solemn expression on Yu Chang's face, hand in hand with the Chinese and Mexican blue engraved sword, forever, boom. The general eruption that couldn't be described in words at all made the already fragile sea of boundless shatter instantly. Enough to make all the heavens and the heavens easily destroyed, it swept hundreds of billions of miles in an instant, and even more vast. Wherever the blast went through, the sea of boundlessness quickly evaporated, and even the entire invisible and intangible mysterious realm was collapsing. 100 billion miles away, Jiang Li trembled as he looked at the broken pole. Wu Shuang, it won't be. Yang Fan's eyes were gloomy. This terrible battle was beyond their reach. Even if he wanted to save him, he might not be able to get close, so he would be crushed into powder. Just when he was about to persuade Jiang Li, the extreme was shocked again, and then a burst of luck that could not be said. Run! Yang Fan yelled, but everything was too late. In the next moment, they were directly swallowed by the general momentum of luck. There is nothingness, everything is back to chaos. This entire treacherous realm is about to become ruins. And they are still in World War I. This battle is a continuation of a battle 10 years ago, and the final victory or defeat will only come to an end if one side sleeps completely. Yu Chang, I guessed right. In the broken pole, Emperor Zhenwu's voice resounded, and soon fell silent again. Chapter 50-22. Nothingness, Eternity. Aren't these three guys dead? I'll swallow them all if I don't wake up. No, I wait and see that they may all be benefactors and friends, so I can't act resolutely, otherwise it will be difficult to explain. Benefactor, treat me unhappy, even your benefactor will eat it. Listening to the intricate sounds in his ears, Yang Fan suddenly opened his eyes and saw a head almost the size of a star, staring at him with vertical pupils. When he was surprised, he stretched his hand to the hilt of the sword at his waist. Don't bother, you can survive or take care of my kindness. It's not beautiful to act resolutely. The behemoth with 9 heads said in a low voice. Yang Fan is now at the end of the crossbow, unable to pull out his sword at all. When he heard that the giant beast was not malicious, he didn't even plan to do it. After that, Jiang Li and Fu Yao woke up one after another, watching all the changes in their bodies with some shock. As far as I can see, the sky has been completely broken into nothingness, and even the borderless sea below him has completely evaporated and turned into an endless abyss. Everything appears to be barren. Here, how could it become like this? Fu Yao whispered softly. Isn't it bad to be like this? They only need to exert a little more force, and the cage will be completely broken. The giant beast said quietly, with some expectations in his eyes. Now, let's just leave it here. The sea evaporates and becomes deserted in ancient times. Everywhere is filled with broken Emperor luck, even Emperor Heaven. At this moment, there are only two figures that seem to have walked out of the ancient times, facing each other. They couldn't look directly at them, and their bodies were filled with unspeakable luck. Of these two figures, one is Zhen Wushuang and the other is Yu Chang. I guessed right, Yu Chang, you have always been an emperor. Emperor Zhenwu said slowly, with supreme authority in his words. But what makes me a little curious is that you are obviously an emperor. Why do you follow Zhen Wuyang? Yu Chang was silent and said for a while, those are not important, but they are all things in the past. Emperor Zhenwu said again, are you still reluctant to let me leave? He said slowly, do not blame Zhenwu Emperor. You know, I can't break my 6-dimensional 6-day true Emperor's eye. Zhenwu Emperor said. Yu Chang said, you can't step on me either. Emperor Zhenwu was a little angry, then let's just keep fighting like this. For a full 10 years. If Emperor Zhenwu is willing, I can accompany him. Then what if I want to drag you to relieve yourself? Emperor Zhenwu's face was extremely gloomy, and he was completely angry. Yu Chang nodded, so, I will never resist. Idiot, stubborn stone, I really want to know what exactly Zhen Wuyang did to make you treat you like this. Emperor Zhenwu sighed. Yu Chang spoke again, his voice a little old, come on, you know, this will never come to fruition. Do you think I will stop? Do you know how many years I have slept here? How sinful I am to be banished here. If you are guilty, he really Wuyang is guilty, he is sorry for me. Emperor Zhenwu was completely angry and shouted, Yu Chang, don't you know everything he does to me? He was silent, and finally said, I know, but these can't be changed. The birth of some great roads is actually original sin. So I was exiled here? Emperor Zhenwu sneered, at this moment, even if I fall, I will let Zhen Wuyang confront me. After he finished speaking, The true eyes of the 6 emperors behind him were all unified, turning into an endless river of heaven flowing. Then, he stabs forward with the sword of the emperor in his hand. This sword, transcending everything, is a sword of fury. The emperor was angry, everything disappeared. Facing this sword, Yu Chang did not retreat nor resist, just standing straight in place, completely withstanding the sword with the emperor body. If the water and moon close together, they all come together. Without any sound, the sword of the emperor ripped open his emperor body without any hindrance, right at the center mouth. Hundreds of millions of huagong burst out from behind Yu Chang and directly shred his imperial body. Holding the hilt of the sword, Emperor Zhenwu Jundao, why don't you resist? This sword hit him severely, leaving the emperor body to pieces. The endless emperor's luck is scattered in the eternal emptiness, turning into big sun stars, re-emergence of a certain unknown heaven. Yu Chang coughed softly, I can't avoid this sword. It's the Emperor Wuyang who made the mistake for you. I want Zhen Wuyang to admit his mistake personally. Zhenwu Emperor roared, and the terrible emperor's luck fluctuates constantly. He is an emperor, and he can't admit if he is wrong, Yu Chang said. The vitality of Emperor Zhenwu trembled, and he didn't speak any more. Facing such a thin old man, he didn't want to let him truly die. He was about to pull out the sword of the emperor, but Yu Chang suddenly stretched out his hand to hold the sword of the emperor in his heart, not letting it out. Are you really looking for death? He said coldly. Yu Chang looked up, his eyes apologetic. Emperor Zhenwu, don't blame the old man. Emperor Zhenwu was taken aback, then shocked, anxious to retreat. But it was too late, and Yu Chang used his body as a bait to let him fall into a trap. Only then did he realize that he could no longer retreat, and his whole body was wrapped in a barren, ancient atmosphere. Strands of barren ancient black patterns flowed quietly, binding him firmly. This ridiculous ancient black pattern is also the luck of the emperor. Let me go, Yu Chang, you. Zhenwu Emperor roared, but everything was powerless. Endless ancient black patterns entangled him, directly extinguishing the emperor's luck in him, making him unable to move. With more and more barren ancient black patterns, Emperor Zhenwu gradually fell into deep sleep. The Grand Dihue dissipated, and his true shadow fell asleep completely. Strands of divine blood flowed out of the immortal body, and the immortal body lay directly in the void. Jian Wushuang seemed to fall into a deep sleep. Although his fairy body was constantly shattering and recovering, there was no sign of waking up. Yu Chang looked pale and calmly looked at Jian Wushuang floating in the void. Then he stretched out his palm. The infinite desolation ancient black pattern was completely submerged in the immortal body, stripping out the true shadow of Emperor Zhenwu's sleep. Ah! Jian Wushuang suddenly sat up, and endless pain came out of his eyes. The immortal body was constantly shattered and reshaped, causing him to suffer to the extreme. With the true shadow of Emperor Zhenwu being pulled away, this pain has been magnified countless times, almost killing him. The power of the emperor is too terrifying. Even if it is just leftover, it is not what he can bear. Chapter 50-23. This made his divine thoughts of perfect harmony are about to be shattered. All the hard work has made the immortal body unable to support it at all, and the broken ones are even worse. Because there is no imperial luck to support Zhenwu Emperor, it has reached the point of being on the verge of destruction. He has been unable to think clearly about the problem, his spiritual thoughts, and the immortal body have reached an unprecedented level of pain. Facing Jian Wushuang, who was burning and disintegrating, Yu Chang waved his hand and lowered a strand of the purest ancient black pattern, covering it. Jian Wushuang stopped screaming, and then fell unconscious. After a moment of silence, a sigh, like a sigh, disappeared, and Yu Chang reached out to hold it and prepared to leave. At this moment, several weak energy auras came from far to near. Yu Chang stopped and looked around. Jiang Lian returned, Fu Yao, as well as the behemoth with 9 heads and the old sheep boy, all rushed at this moment. Even though they have gone through eternal years and were banished here, their moods have long been withered, but after seeing the passage to the outside world, they still can't take it lightly. But none of them took that step, because everyone knew very well that Yu Chang, who stood in front of the passage, could not resist. Looking at them, Yu Chang said softly, "You can't leave." At this moment, no one spoke, only bitterness in his eyes. Covering the loss of his eyes, Yang took a step back and said, "I beg you to take care of his injury." Yu Chang smiled slightly. "I recognize you. You are the sword fairy back then." "It's all the past, don't mention it," Yang returned with a dry smile. "Please let that kid survive." Yu Chang nodded, and just as he was about to leave, another voice stopped him. "Please wait." The old sheep's voice trembled slightly, and he came to him with the still sleeping Shen Qing in his arms. "This one, can you let him out?" Yu Chang stayed silent, reached out his hand to take over Zhe Qing with Qi Luck, then turned and left, disappearing completely after entering the passage. With his departure, the passage closed. The shattered sky began to heal, and the dried-up endless sea rushed and surged again. Everything that happened before left no trace of existence, and everything returned to its original appearance. Our luck has also recovered. Looking at the completely closed Tianmen passage, Yang Fan murmured. Jiang Li was a little frustrated. All this really seems to have never happened. Trust me, we will leave the day pain. The immortal body seems to enter a certain cycle, constantly shattering, and constantly reshaping. The pain in this is beyond words. Every 360 breaths, the immortal body will be broken and reshaped, and endless blood is flowing. Even if his mind was mellow, he couldn't bear it. When the fairy body shattered and reshaped to 36,000 times, Jian Wushuang finally fell asleep completely. The world is quiet and the wind is long. In my ears faintly heard the snickers of children, and the cool wind passed by, unspeakably comfortable. It's just that this kind of comfort can't bear the pain caused by the dizziness. The pain in his mind forced Jian Wushuang to wake up and withdraw from the pain. The pupils barely focused, and the slightly low grass was in sight. And several faces of children upside down. Among these children's faces, there was a child with a braided head and a grinning face. He pinched a fairy grass and stuffed it into Jian Wushuang's nostrils. The stabbing and itching made him unbearable at all, and then he let out a loud sneeze. With this sneeze out, the already weak fairy body almost fell apart. "Yeah, I finally woke up." The children laughed excitedly. Dizziness and swelling, the Xian's body was in severe pain, making Jian Wushuang ready to struggle to get up, but soon he realized that something was wrong. He was hanging on one leg under a fairy tree. "Hey, you naughty children, put me down quickly." Jian Wushuang shouted weakly. He wanted to use his own power to break free, but found it was in vain. He could only ask for forgiveness from these children. It was the naughty kid who was still teasing him. With a turn of his smart eyes, he smacked his lips and said, "You can come down if you want, but you have to have something to exchange, such as candy." "Candy? I have a lot of candies. You put me down first, I will show you." Jian Wushuang continued to say weakly, "You lie. You only have a pair of pants left. How can there be a place to hide candy?" The naughty boy said loudly with his arms akimbo, and the rest of the children joined in. He was startled, and hurriedly looked under him, but as expected, only a pair of pants was left. Besides the trousers, even the Bo-Yang bottle on his waist had disappeared. Regarding what happened after Emperor Zhenwu took over the immortal body, although he had a vague impression, he was still in a state of shock. After all, the Boyang vase contains all the treasures and the true soul of the three emperors. If it is lost, the loss will be incalculable. "You guys, put me down quickly, otherwise none of you will have good fruit." Jian Wushuang was a little anxious, and shouted in shock. Never thought that these jade doll-like children, without any fear, made faces at him. He was so helpless about it, but he couldn't even use any power. This situation didn't last long. When a little boy with red lips and white teeth rushed over, they all fell apart. You little guys, if you dare to tease guests next time, I will make you all unable to eat." The little boy's hands on his hips, his little fleshy face was full of sullen anger. After the gang of urchins were completely driven away, the little boy rushed to Jian Wushuang and waved his hand to cut the fairy vine, allowing him to land. When he fell to the ground, he snorted and fell into a bad shape. "Brother Jian, I knew you were here." A crisp and soft voice rang from the boy's mouth, and she threw directly into Jian Wushuang's arms excitedly. Under this pounce, He almost shut his breath. His eyes were black, and then the sky star appeared randomly. "Ah, what's wrong with you, Brother Jian?" Nothing." Enduring the immortal body that was about to fall apart, Jian Wushuang showed a smile that was uglier than crying, and sat up with the boy in his arms. Right now, this little boy with double hair bun, red lips and white teeth, who appeared like a jade doll, was no one else. It was when Jian Wushuang first visited the heavenly court, he met the first boy to lead him, Xiao Amy. "Amy, why are you here? It's dangerous here." Jian Wushuang subconsciously hugged her tightly, and said with some caution, "It's not dangerous, Brother Jian, here is the heaven." Amy blinked and said smartly. Chapter 50-24. Jian Wushuang was startled when he heard the words. Then, all the previous memories rushed to my heart. The boundless sea of broken nothingness, the crazy Zhenwu Emperor, and the calm and ancient Yu Chang, all appeared in the mind. Here is heaven, here is heaven. Yes, it was him who brought me out of the borderless sea. Jian Wushuang's expression was dignified and complicated. He was worried about so many things, he didn't know what to do for a while. "Big brother Jian, how are you doing? I think your complexion is so bad." Amy said nervously, his eyes clear to the extreme. Looking at her eyes, Jian Wushuang's anxious heart slowly fell silent. "It's okay, Amy," he shook his head and smiled reluctantly. "Here is the heaven really." "Yes, that's right," Amy nodded and said incomparably, "this is Shaojishan, and it is also within the scope of the heavenly court, where Grandpa lives leisurely." He heard the words and nodded. Who can be called Grandpa by Amy? I'm afraid no one else is qualified except that one. After weighing it again and again, Jian Wushuang said, "Will you take me there and see Uncle Yu?" "Of course it can. Those who can come to Xiajie Mountain are heavy guests," Amy said with a smile, and then jumped down, pulling Jian Wushuang and leaving. "Amy, go slowly. The rich to the extreme original generative power is flowing slowly, the fairy grass is stalking, and the clear spring is flowing. Here is the real wonderland." Jian Wushuang, who was being dragged by Amy, his fairy body was slowly recovering and repairing. "Big brother Jian, go faster, I will take you to see Grandpa," Amy said excitedly. Jian Wushuang nodded. All his worries and incomprehension can only be solved by seeing Yu Chang or Zhen Wuyang. Under the guidance of Amy, the whole picture of this Shaojishan was kept in view. Here, there is no Sendai Kyonglu, nor is there a magnificent temple, only vines and long grasses and clear springs. Just as Jian Wushuang was moving forward, hurrying to repair the immortal body, a figure dressed in a plain shirt stepped on the cloud, and the real sword in his hand surged with a powerful force. "Stop!" What Jian Feng pointed to, the grass leaves Shuofei. This is a handsome young man with sharp eyebrows and extreme coldness. Seeing this young man, Amy stopped, a little nervous. "Who are you? Why did you come to Shaojishan?" he shouted loudly, with murderous intent in his eyes. Jian Wushuang remained silent, blocking Amy behind him, and said in a low voice, "I want to see Uncle Yu. You tell me the truth, you should know the truth." When the handsome young man heard the words, his expression became even colder. In other words, "You broke into Shaojishan without authorization?" He sighed secretly, a battle might be inevitable. But at this moment, a quiet and gentle voice sounded, "He is a visitor from Shaojishan, and I can testify." Jian Wushuang looked around, only to see a figure riding down in the breeze to the very center. This is a woman in plain clothes with a cold and weak face. Seeing the appearance of this woman, the handsome young man frowned slightly. "Chang Ling, how do you prove it?" The woman named Chang Ling took a step forward, her voice cold and sharp. "Then I have to ask you first, when, in the big division domain, a fairy yang could break into Shaojishan without authorization?" The handsome young man looked stiff, and said uncomfortably, "I am guarding against the infiltration of foreign enemies." "You also know the importance of Shaojishan." Chang Ling heard the words, and the corners of her mouth curled up. "Qingshan, what you said of yours, what if it spreads to you BOS ears, or even to the ears of veterans?" "Chang Ling, what do you mean?" The handsome young man stepped back and said nervously, "If you don't want to give birth to more right and wrong, just get out of it," she said condensedly, then turned to look at Jian Wushuang, tilting her head slightly. Qing Shan was angry, but didn't dare to stop him, so he could only glare at them and proceeded. Seeing Qing Shan leaving, Amy, who was hiding behind him, hurriedly rushed into Jian Wushuang's arms in twos. Fortunately, Sister Ling will help, otherwise we will be in trouble. Amy patted his small body and said. Jian Wushuang nodded, then looked at Chang Ling beside him and nodded, "Thank you for your help." Chang Ling looked at him meaningfully. "Here, since I can remember, there has never been a foreigner to set foot. You are the first one. Your identity is not simple." He shook his head. "You think too much, even I don't know how I got here." At this time, Amy said, "Brother Jian is here to find Uncle Yu. It's really not easy, good luck." Chang Ling said, "Uncle Yu is very mysterious. If you want to find him, you just need to move forward. Just, go ahead." Chang Ling nodded. "This Shaojishan is infinite, and no immortal can travel here. If you want to find Uncle Yu, it depends on whether Uncle Yu wants to see you. Don't worry, Brother Jian, there is Amy, and I will definitely let you find Uncle Yu." Amy promised to pat her small body. Chang Ling couldn't help being so handsome. She stretched out her hand and rubbed her little hair bun. "Amy, do you want to follow me?" Amy shook his head, stretched out his short and chubby little arm, and tightly wrapped Jian Wushuang's neck. "No, I have to take care of Grandpa." "Okay, it made you happy." Chang Ling smiled, then looked at Jian Wushuang. "You are the only one who can make Amy depend so much besides the Emperor under the seat of the Emperor. I am surprised. Big brother Jian is Xiao Dijun's friend, and that is my brother," Amy said with a wink. "So, I wish you good luck and find Uncle Yu as soon as possible." Chang Ling smiled slightly and stopped where she was. Jian Wushuang nodded, then hugged Amy and left quickly. In the distance, Amy's voice rang again. "Sister Aya, is Brother Jian very handsome?" Knowing from Chang Ling's mouth, Shaojishan is infinite, and facts have proved that it is true. Jian Wushuang, who was walking forward holding Amy, although the speed of was not too fast, it was more than enough to cross a heavenly plane every 10 breaths. Even so, the road ahead is still just a creeping grass and clear springs. "Amy, do you know how to find Uncle Yu or Emperor?" Jian Wushuang asked. Already lying on his back, some sleepy Amy shook his head. "I don't know, we can only see Grandpa if Grandpa wants to see us. Other than that, we can't find it." "That's a little troublesome." Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly. Although his injury was slowly recovering, it was not enough to support his constant consumption. Although the strength of this Shaojishan is extremely strong, there is not much to absorb. If he continues to search aimlessly, I am afraid that he hasn't found Uncle Yu yet. He will be exhausted first. After all, it has not been long since being bullied by the previous group of urchins. Chapter 50-25. But Jian Wushuang was not in a hurry, but gradually calmed down. The fairyland at the foot is Xiajie Mountain, a fairyland where Zhen Wuyang lives leisurely. He didn't believe that Uncle Yu or even Zhen Wuyang would not know that a strange fairy had broken into Xiajie Mountain. Most likely, they were observing in secret. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang remained silent, but exuded divine thoughts and kept exploring. The result is naturally nothing. In desperation, he could only move forward quickly again. Immortal grasses are growing, and the wind is lingering. Jian Wushuang is carrying Amy on his back and moving forward quickly, but apart from all kinds of fairy trails, there is no trace of even the aura of Yangxian. This made him feel a little vague. Why did Uncle Yu bring him to Shaojishan, and why didn't he show up? As he fell into contemplation, his footsteps stopped immediately. He felt a bit muddy under his feet, and he wouldn't find it if he didn't notice it carefully. In the next moment, endless mysterious black patterns sprawled out from under the feet, with a barren and ancient aura. In it, Jian Wushuang felt desolation and loneliness inexplicably. "Yes, my spirit is very powerful, and I found my breath in such a short time." Accompanied by this somewhat old voice resounding, a thin figure condensed from the ancient black patterns stood in front of him. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed, and he knew that this was Yu Bo Yu Chang. With one's own power, the mysterious power to sleep Emperor Zhenwu. Yu Chang's face was calm, and he looked at him carefully, and seemed more satisfied. But he was a little anxious. eager to know the whereabouts of Diqing and Jiang Lian. As if he had guessed what he was thinking, Yu Chang said slowly, "I will answer your question, but not now." "Now, you answer my question." "Good." Jian Wushuang nodded without hesitation. "What are you best at?" He was startled, then he meditated for a moment. "Sword." "Sword, it sounds good." Yu Chang nodded and smiled kindly. "How about we try?" Jian Wushuang's eyes twitched. "Well, uncle, you should not be kidding." "Just kidding." The old man in front of him, who is not visible and due, but the ruthless character who can fight the emperor, the strength is unimaginable. The quasi-emperor is no longer an existence that can lie, let alone an emperor. Jian Wushuang believed that as long as Zhen Wuyang or Yu Chang had been killed in the first line, he would not survive for a while, and he would not even be able to resist. This is why he will be very resistant to show strength. It's just that everything that happens next is beyond his control. A long sword full of black ink and engraved with endless dense patterns appeared in Yu Chang's hands. "Come on, let me see where your limits are," he said, pointing his sword straight ahead. Jian Wushuang's brows jumped fiercely, and only bitterness was left in his eyes. The sword of the emperor kills everything. Even though he has the strongest kendo, he still doesn't think it is comparable. One is Yangxian and the other is emperor. Every step in between is an insurmountable gap. This is no longer a fight, it's all about death. Obviously, Jian Wushuang didn't want to die. But these can't help him. What you can see has become Yu Chang's domain, and endless black patterns are flowing, forming a magnificent dojo. And this battle of disparity has already begun. Yu Chang held the sword of the emperor and slashed straight down. In an instant, a sword that was like a mountain and sea turned into a million swords and was quickly cut down. A chill rose behind Jian Wushuang, a great horror between life and death, and he had to resist. This was a dead sword, and it didn't leave him any way back. Even the Emperor Zhen would only fall under this sword, there was no way. Jian Wushuang guessed that Yu Chang already knew the secret in the Boyang bottle, so he wanted to kill him. Knowing that he was about to die, he calmed down instead. Wushuang Kendo, Xingyihu Haijianyi, the first style, the second style. Star, river. Two-way out. Even under the control of Yu Chang, the sword intent is still endless. The towering Tianhe swept away, and Jian Wushuang stood at the head of the tide, resolutely raising his sword to meet. Facing that sword cut, the invisible sword shone to the extreme. Zheng dashed the sound of gold and iron strikes, and then everything fell into silence. The kendo Tianhe shattered, turning into an endless sword intent and disappearing. Jian Wushuang stood in place, and the invisible sword in his hand was also broken into powder. On his chest, a shocking sword cut almost cut it in half. The blood of the scarlet gold spewed out, spilling into the void. An unspeakable pain, as if even the divine mind was cut off. But this pain lasted for less than 10 breaths, and disappeared without a trace as the scar healed. Jian Wushuang didn't even have time to express his stance, and the fairy body had recovered as before. How could it be? He was shocked and pressed his chest in disbelief. Yu Chang, who saw this scene from a distance, smiled slightly, and then cut again with his sword. This time, there are 10 sword cuts. Jian Wushuang was shocked, he couldn't bear it with just one sword cut, there were 9 more ways, and the destruction was bound to be a foregone conclusion. He resisted, and not surprisingly, the kendo was easily broken, and even the fairy body was almost torn into pieces. Jian Wushuang was already at a loss when he covered the wound with the blood gushing out with his palm. Because he discovered that the immortal body was healed at an unimaginable speed. This is really incredible. You know, even if the immortal body is transformed from an ultra-perfect chaotic creature, it is an existence against the sky, but it does not have an exaggerated recovery speed. Facing the emperor's prosperous sword, or even 10 swords, not only did it not shatter, but he withstood it and healed quickly, which is simply unimaginable. Jian Wushuang was just a cultivating immortal, and the strength of the immortal body plus the strength of the 9 heavens Yi Xuanzong envoy could resist the attacks of rank 6 or even rank 9 Dian immortal, and it would never be possible to withstand the power of the emperor. Could it be that Yu reads www.ukanshu.com Because of Zhu Tianyishen? Jian Wushuang was worried, not knowing that Yu Chang had taken the sword and came to him. How's your body? I feel pretty good. It's really good, it's durable enough to withstand the power of the Emperor. Yu Chang was amazed. Your immortal body is no longer the previous one. Jian Wushuang looked at him a little puzzled, and at the same time didn't know the reason for this change. Do you remember what happened last in the Sea of No Edge? Jian Wushuang nodded. I remember, but it's not clear. Is it related to him? It does matter. At the last moment, I expelled his true shadow, but he still has the most important thing left in your body. Chapter 50-26. Jian Wushuang heard the words, his eyes twitched slightly. Yu Chang then spoke again. Have you noticed any strange changes in your fairy body? Thinking slightly, he said, it's very strong, and the recovery speed is almost indistinguishable from the previous one. More importantly, it can withstand the power of the Emperor. If this were placed before, it would be almost unthinkable. Even if the immortal body is terrible and against the sky, it is still impossible to withstand the power of the Emperor. It has an upper limit to withstand. Generally, the rank 6 Dayan Immortal, or even the rank 3 Dayan Immortal, can inflict heavy damage or even destruction on the immortal. After all, Jian Wushuang is only the realm of evolving immortals, but now, immortal, he has completely withstood Yu Chang's full blow. That's a ruthless character who can fight the Emperor. Want to know what Emperor Zhenwu left in your body? Yu Chang said again. Jian Wushuang nodded. Emperor body. Emperor body. Emperor body. His eyes widened for an instant, and even the words were a bit uncomfortable. Emperor body, the body of the Emperor. Emperor Zhenwu actually left the Emperor body in his body. No wonder the immortal body can withstand the blow of Yu Chang. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang's heart throbbed uncontrollably. This improvement is too scary, completely beyond one's own imagination. Knowing that he is just the peak of the fairy tale, the fairy body can stop the Emperor's offensive. What if he stepped into the realm of the fairy tale in the future? The immortal body grows with the growth of the realm. Jian Wushuang dare not imagine what a scene he would be like on the day he became a Dayan Immortal. But soon, he woke up, somewhat worried. Since Emperor Zhenwu's immortal body was really left in his body, it is not surprising that Yu Chang brought him to the heavenly court. The true shadow of Emperor Zhenwu fell asleep in the endless sea again, and his emperor body should also be taken over by the heaven. Are you going to pull his emperor body away? Jian Wushuang asked, looking up at him. Yu Chang smiled slightly and said non-committal, it's still early days. It's the first time you have come to Xiajie Mountain, so you can travel a bit first. After Jian Wushuang heard this, he probably knew that the emperor body left in his fairy body would soon be taken out. Therefore, he simply no longer entangled. Even if the emperor body is stronger, he has been noticed by the heavenly court, known to the emperor, and there is no way to stay. The world was silent, the endless black patterns retreated, and the world of Shaojishan was revealed again. Stepping on the creeping fairy grass under your feet, the two move forward. Little friend, why did you go to the borderless sea? Yu Chang walked in front and asked. Save people. Jian Wushuang looked at him, a little nervous. You want to ask, is he in the borderless sea now, or has he left there? Yes. Then you can relax, he has been brought out by me, just like you, in this Shaojishan. Hearing this news, Jian Wushuang took a sigh of relief, and the journey to the borderless sea was not in vain. But then he felt nervous again, thinking of Jiang Lian returning to both. Yu Chang also said, except for ditching, the rest of Yangxian exiled in the borderless sea must not leave. This is the emperor's order. With a sigh, Jian Wushuang's eyes were only sad. He felt that the Xianxian exiled in the endless sea was not inexcusable or even innocent, but suffered unimaginable pain. For the immortal Yangxian who is endless Shouyuan, being exiled and imprisoned in a cage is the coldest and cruel punishment. Little friend, are you the heavenly official next to Xiao Dijuan? Forget it, but it won't be soon. Are you leaving, or is it because of other things? Maybe I will travel in a while, so I can't stabilize it. As for the position of Tianguan, I think there should be more suitable candidates than me. Yu Chang nodded and said no more. After a tens of thousands of miles, their speed is not slow, but the scenery in their eyes has not changed, as if there is no real end point. I don't know how long it has been. When one of the leading boys keeps appearing, the immortal Xiao Jishan can be regarded as a little angry. Immediately afterwards, a series of dojos condensed from pure and extremely powerful forces appeared. In the dojo filled with immortality, there is a figure sitting or lying down. With just a glance, Jian Wushuang swallowed his throat involuntarily, because the figures in each dojo were full of light wheels, and there was a general trend that could not be said. In other words, each of them is a rank 9 Dian immortal, who is the ancient power to help Zhen Wuyang develop the Daci territory. Moreover, there is more than one Wangu great power like this. Looking around, there are hundreds of magnificent Taoist temples. Let's go, I'll take you to see the emperor. Yu Chang smiled slightly, and then walked forward. It was only then that Jian Wushuang noticed that the center of the dojo on one side, like stars arching over the moon, brought out a more magnificent and calm dojo. The endless moon blossoms slowly swirled around the edge of the dojo like a tassel, unable to indicate at all. Yu Chang guided forward, and the warm jade steps that were transformed under his feet stretched far away. Depressing the throbbing in his heart, Jian Wushuang bit his scalp and quickly followed. As he moved forward, the silent dojo around him began to exude a general trend of awakening, and then one body after another soared out. They don't have to deliberately. The kind of vibe that is like a mountain and sea will overwhelming the heavens is completely radiated. Every veteran cast a curious look at Jian Wushuang, and then walked forward together. He glanced at a veteran of Wang Wangu around him from the corner of his light. Jian Wushuang did not squint, and was extremely nervous. No other reason, just because the luck released by the Wangu elders was too powerful and terrifying. This made Jian Wushuang, who was already weak, had to do his best to resist the pressure of the whole body. He was miserable, but he could barely deal with it. Yu Chang walked in the forefront, followed him with a wave of his palm, and the moonlight barrier opened, revealing the true face of the dojo. A lot of colored lotus sprouts from underfoot and stretches into the dojo. This is a Hualian avenue. The giants all over the sky smiled and walked into the dojo. Little friend, come with me. Yu Chang looked back and smiled, reaching out to lead. Jian Wushuang replied, and after taking a deep breath, he stepped on Hualian Avenue and entered this magnificent dojo. Hundreds of millions of colorful lotus sprawls, and the top avenue luck flows like a thread in the dojo slowly. With that kind of luck, it was enough to give birth to the most powerful shocking Tianjiao. Jian Wushuang stood in the dojo, looking very hard. The sky was full of giants. At this time, Wang Jiu Yuyu's bell tolls lightly, and the sky is the same. Chapter 50-27. Every veteran is the supreme one who walked out of that ancient age. Even in the imperial dojo of Zhen Wuyang, they all have their own small world. The stars cross the moon, the stars and the moon twine. In the middle of the entire magnificent dojo, there was a middle-aged figure in a white uniform. He closed his eyes quietly, his clothes all over his body were fluttering, and his billions of fortunes were connected to each other, so he could not look directly at him. Jian Wushuang, who had been in the heavenly court several times, naturally couldn't be clearer. That figure was the emperor of the entire great Zhen Wuyang. With the giants all over the sky seated in their respective small worlds, Jian Wushuang also sat in his small world at the invitation of Yu Chang. Yu Chang's Xiaoshuxiandi is the closest seat to Emperor Zhen Wuyang, and sits almost side by side. The other Wangu elders are all around like stars. Looking at Emperor Zhen Wuyang sitting almost side by side, Jian Wushuang was sitting on pins and needles. This was the first time that he was so close to Zhen Wuyang, and the discomfort came to his face, especially when facing the gaze of so many Wangu elders. The discomfort became stronger. However, Jian Wushuang was once the lord of the universe, his mind was firm, and he soon returned to normal, and he began to watch his nose and his heart. At the same time, Zhen Wuyang, who had been closing his eyes and meditating, quietly opened his eyes. And at first glance, he didn't look at the elders of the heavens, but at Jian Wushuang. With eyes facing each other, a kind of unspeakable air luck, as if straddling the ages, rushing towards the face. It is a kind of vertical and horizontal, long-lasting gaze, with absolute suppression. This is the involuntary coercion from the divine mind. Jian Wushuang's eyes were calm and waveless, but his palms under his robe were already condensed. Even though his spiritual thoughts were mellow, he still felt dizzy. But this kind of coercion only lasted for a few breaths of time, and it slowly retracted with Zhen Weiyang's unclear gaze. Then he spoke, his voice soft and steady. I have seen you, the little Xiaoyangshan who stirred Kanglan before the six-day realm. Jian Wushuang was dumb, not knowing how to answer. Zhen Wuyang said again, it's just that if you don't be with Yang, what are you doing in the Sea of No Edge? He knew that this was asking knowingly, but he could only bite the bullet and said, go and save a fairy. Zhen Wuyang laughed when he heard the words, it's honest too. Jian Wushuang also wanted to find an excuse to pass the level at will, but this is already a certainty. You must know that the last battle of the Sea of No Coast even alarmed Yu Chang. Yu Chang was alarmed, and Zhen Wuyang could not have been unaware of it, so this was a knowing question. Yang opened the door for you? Yes. It's really courageous. You two not only dare to think, but also dare to do it. If a little Yangxian rushes into the land of exile, he is not afraid of perishing in it. I'm afraid, but I can't help myself. Zhen Wuyang looked at him and did not speak any more. After a while, he said again, it is unimaginable that you can walk out of the sea without a border alive, but since everything has happened and is over, I will no longer hold the blame. You continue to be a great heaven official by Yang, so protect him. Jian Wushuang remained silent, and finally apologized slightly. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't do it. The reason why I was with him temporarily to take the post of Tianguan is actually because of an agreement between us. Once 70 years have passed, I will leave. The voice fell, the emperor's dojo was silent. All the elders looked at him, and their eyes flashed with surprise. Because for an immortal, being able to become a heavenly official of the emperor's line, basically the future road of cultivation will be thousands of times smoother. The position of Tianguan is far more than just a position. It represents the ability to enjoy the luck of the emperor. That kind of luck is enough for a Yangxian to easily enter the realm of Dianxian, and as the years go by, it is not difficult to break through the 6th rank. For Yangxian whose life is almost endless, this is almost a condition that cannot be looked up. Even for the veterans, they are quite generous conditions. You know, the emperor's luck is too important, so important that even the 9th rank Dian immortal covets extremely. But right now, he was rejected by a Yangxian. At this time, Yu Chang said, little friend, then do you know how many years have passed since the outside world entered the borderless sea? Jian Wushuang was startled, then shook his head, I don't know. 1,000 years. What 10,000 years? He was in a trance for an instant, and even his spiritual thoughts fluctuated. 10,000 years have passed since Shunli universe came to Dianhuan. He didn't even have time to do anything, and it flew for thousands of years. Yu Chang nodded, it has indeed been 10,000 years since you entered the borderless sea. Resting in a daze, Jian Wushuang nodded, thank you for letting me know. Zhen Wuyang said, where do you plan to go after the agreement is over? He shook his head, I don't know, I think I will travel around. Zhen Wuyang laughed, then do you think I will let you go? No. Jian Wushuang said simply. You're right, I won't let one go. The little Yangxian who can shake Dianxian leaves Darciu, not to mention Thixuanxian is the only one who retreats from the Sea of No Edge. Jian Wushuang was silent, Zhen Wuyang didn't want him to leave, there were 10,000 ways, but he could only accept passively. Zhen Wuyang looked at him and said, but there are exceptions to everything. If you want to leave, there is another way. Any solution? Break down the heavenly official I chose for Yang, then you can leave by yourself. Okay, I agree. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang said firmly. He could already imagine that Zhen Wuyang would randomly appoint a veteran around him as the heavenly official of the younger brother. Once that happens, he has no chance of winning. But what was unexpected next was that Zhen Wuyang did not arbitrarily appoint a veteran. Ukanshu. Com instead looked at Yu Chang. Yu Chang nodded, then got up and waved his sleeves, widening the gate of the dojo. Immediately afterwards, dozens of people led the boy in file. Surrounded by them, a young man with sharp brows and sharp eyebrows stepped into the dojo. Jian Wushuang's eyes condensed, a little surprised. Because the visitor was not someone else, it was the young man who made trouble for him when he first came to Shaojishan. Chang Ling called it a green hill. This is really a coincidence. Jian Wushuang understands that Qing Shan should be the heavenly official selected by Zhen Wuyang for the little emperor. Just as he thought, Zhen Wuyang subsequently declared that Qing Shan was the official candidate of Shaodijun. The eyes were facing each other. At this moment, the Green Mountain standing in the center of the dojo was shocked to the extreme. He had never thought that when they met again, they would be in the monarch's dojo. Chapter 50-28. What's even worse is that there is such a correlation between the two of them. Qing Shan never thought that they would have a battle. I heard that you are enough to defeat Dian Immortal. Now that I am defeating Qing Shan, I can let you go and stop forcing you to be with Yang. How about? Jian Wushuang nodded. Yes. Go ahead. Zhen Wuyang finally said. The boundless luck turned into a breeze, wrapped it up and sent it to the center of the dojo. Qing Shan still didn't recover, looking at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. The two faced each other far away, and Jian Wushuang never took a step back. The Green Mountain in front of him was a third-ranked Great Yangxian. Because of his practice in Shaojishan, his strength was almost surging to the extreme. As long as there is a chance for a breakthrough, he will inevitably reach the rank 6 realm easily. The breeze from nowhere blew up their clothes. An invisible sword has appeared quietly. You want to shoot at me? Qing Shan felt a little absurd, and a little Yangxian would actually have the heart to fight. As a last resort. Jian Wushuang said, the invisible sword in his hand was already bright. In that case, let's start. Qing Shan said coldly, with the true sword already in hand. The squally gusts are blowing and breaking out. Sister Ling, Brother Jian is about to fight him, what should I do? In front of Tian Men, Amy shook Chang Ling's finger in a hurry and said. Chang Ling's face was solemn, and it was obvious that Jian Wushuang's behavior was in her eyes, and there was no doubt that she would die. There is a third-ranked Dian Immortal, and the other is an immortal. The difference between them is no longer able to tell in words. They don't even have to fight, the end is doomed. Although Chang Ling was secretly anxious, she couldn't help it because they couldn't even enter the dojo, and they could only stand outside the Tian Men and watch everything that happened in the dojo. Then, she squatted down and looked at Amy and said, Your brother Jian will be fine, do you think Brother Jian is great? Amy said quickly, very powerful as Xiao Dijuan. That's right, your brother Jian will definitely win. Chang Ling said with a smile. Then, will Brother Jian definitely win? Definitely. We will watch it right here. Yu Chang, what do you think of the result? Zhen Wuyang turned to look at Yu Chang, and said with a smile. He didn't speak, his somewhat muddy eyes looked down, and it took a long time to say a word. Green hills are not as good as swords. Zhen Wuyang didn't comment on this, but watched this extremely unequal battle with interest. Next, a scene that surprised the elders of the heavens appeared. None of them thought that Jian Wushuang would actually take the lead, carrying an indomitable general trend, crushing towards the Green Mountain. The mighty sword intent swept up and rolled up the dust in the dojo, instantly surrounding the front. Qing Shan's gaze condensed, his own realm and power exploded directly. The terrifying force that belongs to the third stage realm, once released, it is almost completely crushed. The magnificent Yanli turned into an inch of light, and after cutting away the dust that was transformed from the sword intent, he emasculated Jian Wushuang unabated. Zheng. With the loud sound, Jian Wushuang was cut back 1,000 feet. Sparks overflowed. He didn't stop his figure until 1,000 feet away. Although defeated by thousands of feet, he was not injured in the slightest. Because of the 9-day clothing mysterious, plus the protection of the emperor's body, Xiu said that it was a green hill, even 10,000 green hills, and there was no possibility of breaking the defense. This is the confidence that Jian Wushuang, who is still in a weak state, will face. Qing Shan's mind was calm. In this first confrontation, he seemed to have taken the lead, but he did not feel relieved. He could feel that Jian Wushuang was not easy, so he began to be careful. But Jian Wushuang was not the case. His immortal body could not be broken for the time being, so he didn't hesitate to rush up directly. Wushuang Kendo, Xingge Huhai second style was also released. The lofty Tianhe swept down, and once again rolled up the dust and covered it forward. Qing Shan didn't dare to underestimate him. Although he was the third-rank Dayan immortal, Jian Wushuang inexplicably gave him a huge pressure. Especially under this sword intent, he unexpectedly felt a kind of shock. Converging his mind, he held a sword facing each other, which was the terrifying power of the third-rank Dayan immortal, which was undoubtedly revealed. The dark cyan strength also swept up, like a mountain and sea pillar, smashing into the Kendo Tianhe. The two collide, and the general situation is competing. At this moment, even the Emperor's dojo trembled. All Wangu veterans watched this scene in astonishment. They couldn't believe that these powers were actually released by a third-turned Dayan immortal and a Yangxian. And Qing Yanli kept retreating, but the sword Tianhe was also rapidly shattering. The green mountain that was gritted his teeth was already shocked to the point where it could not be added. He actually played a match with a Yangxian, evenly matched. This made him unbearable. He was furious, and a shocking natal treasure condensed at this moment. Then, the natal treasure opened his eyes, carrying the momentum of the mountains and seas, slammed his palms towards the Kendo Tianhe. Boom! The towering Kendo Tianhe shattered in an instant and turned into endless tassels, scattered and disappeared. However, almost at the same time, a bit of cold light quietly appeared in Qing Shan's eyes. He was so shocked that he never thought that Jian Wushuang would hide in the Tianhe and crush him towards him. This is an absolute sword, an absolutely unstoppable sword, a sword that fights for life. Qing Shan was very aware of the horror of this sword, so he desperately released his life treasure to stop it. But it was too late. A bit of cold light appeared, and then pierced into the natal treasure. Time seemed to stagnate, and Jian Wushuang's absolute sword hit completely. In the next moment, with the heart's mouth as the center, hundreds of millions of azure blue cracks were instantly covered with natal treasures. The breath dissipated, and Yang Li collapsed. Along with the shattering of his natal treasure, Qing Shan's complexion in a white shirt changed. He backed back heavily, and the white shirt in his heart was already wet with blood. The dojo was silent, and all the elders raised their heads and stared at the green mountain. The gods are so bloody, they are incredible. A third-ranked Dayan immortal would be forced to such a degree by a Yangxian. How could this be possible? Fighting across borders is something that has never happened before, but it is happening now. Even if it is the only shocking arrogant in all ages, I am afraid it can't be done. This shocked the cognition of all veterans, including Zhen Wuyang. He wrinkled his brows slightly, and the Emperor's true face had never been so solemn. He has been struggling all his life, controlling an innumerable universe, and he has been completely moved after seeing too many Tianjiao. Qing Shan is not as good as a sword, it is really not as good as a sword. Chapter 50-29. Jian Wushuang drew the sword and stood. His face was so hard that he gave birth to a sickly red. He is still in a weak state, not getting better at all, and even the serious consequences have been exacerbated by the fighting. But he still supported the normal operation of the body's strength. Qing Shan is a realm of the third-rank Dayan immortal, and he will never lose easily. Even if he was injured by absolute sword for the first time, he could actually be evaded. After all, the gap between rank 3 Dayan immortal and Yangxian was too big. His one sword hit Qing Shan severely, but it was not fatal, nor did it hurt the root cause. The real war is about to begin. Qing Shan slowly raised his head, only cold killing intent remained in his sword-sharp brows. The next moment, he took a sudden step and slammed into Jian Wushuang like an arrow. Jian Wushuang's eyebrows lowered, he didn't evade, and even faced Qing Shan, he slammed into it. Boom! The two directly collided like that, shaking the world. The resulting slaying explosion directly swept across, and the endless force burst open, completely raging in the entire dojo. Yu Chang stretched out his hand in time, and with supreme luck, all the slaying explosions were enveloped in the barrier. At this moment, all Wangu elders sat up straight, their eyes shocked. Outside of Tianmen, Chang Ling couldn't believe it, but she knew Qingshan's cultivation level best. It was because she was too clear that she was shocked. She knew Jian Wushuang's weakness, and it was precisely because of her weakness that she had helped out earlier. But the current scene completely subverted her imagination. Jian Wushuang, who seemed weak, unexpectedly broke out with such power. When the sabotage reached its peak, Chang Ling covered Amy's eyes with her hands in time. She didn't want Amy to see Jian Wushuang's defeat. In her heart, there is absolutely no possibility that he will not fail. The gulf between the three-turn great Yangxian and Yangxian cannot be changed by working hard. The dust is cleared. When the two figures stand on opposite sides, Chang Ling's eyes are rounded to the maximum. Jian Wushuang's robe was shattered, but he did not suffer any damage. And Qingshan's entire left shoulder was completely shattered, and the blood was spurting down, repairing with difficulty. The result was reversed, and all Wangu elders, including Zhen Wuyang, were completely surprised. How could this be the power Yangxian can possess? Qingshan clasped his broken right arm tightly, retreating with a degree of disbelief, and looked at Jian Wushuang in disbelief and surprise. If the first confrontation means nothing, then this second confrontation speaks for itself. Qingshan, lost. Jian Wushuang was also uncomfortable, the blood in the fairy's body was surging, and his power was almost exhausted. If it were not for the backing of the emperor body, he would definitely not risk the exhaustion of his power to fight against Qingshan. As the right arm condensed with difficulty, Qingshan slowly said, "Are you really just a fairy?" Without answering him, Jian Wushuang said, "You admit defeat, I just want to leave here, and I don't want to be your enemy." He was startled, then the corners of his eyes trembled. "Are you insulting me?" "No, I just want to end this meaningless fight." Jian Wushuang didn't finish a word. Qingshan was already furious, his arms suddenly waved, and in an instant, his endless strength turned into a million green front sword curtain, swept up. The Qingfeng sword curtain besieged Jian Wushuang almost instantly, with boundless momentum. At this moment, all Wangu veterans are looking forward to it. The Green Mountain roared, pushing the endless green front sword curtain down. Next, Jian Wushuang, who was in the sword curtain, made a shocking move. He completely gave up any defense, and with his chest against the falling sword curtain, he quickly rushed towards the Green Mountain. This scene surprised all the elders. Zhen Wuyang frowned, as if he had realized something, and suddenly realized after a moment. Immediately, he was a little upset. "Yu Chang, why don't you remind me?" Yu Chang smiled. "Emperor, it's not that Yu Chang didn't remind, but you didn't give me the opportunity to remind." "Miscalculation, why did you say that I forgot the abnormality in this kid fairy body?" Zhen Wuyang smiled bitterly. "This time, it seems that there is no suspense anymore." Yu Chang asked immediately, "If Wushuang little friend wins, will the emperor let him leave?" "Of course I will let him leave. Even if he is shocked again, he will be stunning. If he Yanger is not of one mind, I will not force him to stay. It's a pity that Yanger." Zhen Wuyang didn't say any more, but after a long sigh, he looked at the battle in the dojo again. Qingshan had forgotten everything, only astonishment was left in his eyes. That figure grew bigger and bigger in his pupils, and was finally completely occupied. The endless Qingfeng sword curtain, even the Ju Tianyi Xian on Jian Wushuang's body, has not been damaged at all, let alone damaged the emperor's body. A little scarlet red light appeared, stabbing towards the fairy source of Qingshan without any pause. Jian Wushuang's eyes were red, and he used the power of the way of killing, only to thirst for blood. If the hit was in the middle, Qingshan would never be alive. But the next moment, this scarlet red light didn't pierce the Xianyuan, but grazed Qingshan's chest. At the same time, Jian Wushuang used his shoulders to exert force, hitting his heart heavily, and blasted it out. Boom! Like mountains and seas, the divine peak collapsed. He slammed heavily on the barrier, and then fell into the dojo. The dojo was silent, and all Wangu veterans looked solemn. Outside of Tianmen, Chang Ling was completely stunned, staring at Jian Wushuang in a daze. Amy opened her palm, saw this scene, and suddenly shouted with excitement, "Big brother sword wins, brother sword wins." After Qing Shan lying on his back in the dojo suddenly drew out a sip of blood, he got up with difficulty and looked at Zhen Wushuang with a complex expression. His immortal body was intact, and he had never suffered a serious injury. The only blood that spewed out was also knocked out. Zhen Wushuang, who had temporarily regained his momentum, almost completely withstood the backlash. If it weren't for the strong body, it would not be impossible for him to pass out on the spot. Secretly swallowing blood in his throat, he slowly turned around and looked at Zhen Wuyang. At this moment, the elders of the heavens held their breath and looked at Zhen Wuyang together. Everything counts. Zhen Wuyang nodded slightly. Zhen Wushuang secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and then he thanked him. But shortly afterwards, Zhen Wuyang spoke again. His voice was supremely prestigious. Since you don't want to be Yang's heavenly official, this emperor will not force it. But now the emperor asks you, would you like to be the emperor's heavenly official? Zhen Wushuang's eyes twitched and his eyes widened. The elders of the heavens also twitched at the corners of their eyes, and their eyes widened, exactly the same. Emperor Zhen Wuyang, the supreme existence of the entire Daisy domain, is actually inviting an immortal at this moment. Chapter 50-30. Invite a little Yangxian to be the emperor's great heavenly official? This was so absurd that Yu Chang looked at Zhen Wuyang. Will you? The huge sound of each word rang in the dojo. All the elders, including Chang Ling who was standing outside Tianmen, became nervous. This seems to be the most absurd decision made by the emperor. Oh, Sister Ling, your grip hurts me. Amy pouted, and pulled out a small hand from Chang Ling's clenched palm. Chang Ling regained consciousness and quickly apologized, then once again focused on what happened in the dojo. Zhen Wushuang stood alone in the vast dojo, and clouds of smoke slowly rose and fell all over him, setting off him like an aloof immortal. Back to Emperor, I don't want to. The dojo was silent, and all Wangu elders were sluggish. They could no longer imagine the reason for rejection. Yu Chang looked at Zhen Wushuang, a touch of clarity flashed in his muddy eyes. Zhen Wuyang laughed. Interesting, tell me why. After pondering for a moment, Zhen Wushuang said, I can't settle down, it's just a passing by. That's it. That's it. Zhen Wuyang stopped talking, and the needle fell in the dojo. The unconstrained are often the most terrifying. Like a thread, like a mist of black-grey silk, it blew on Zhen Wushuang's face with the long wind that did not know where it came from. As far as he can see, everything is barren. This kind of barrenness is barrenness where there hasn't been any breath of life, it's a place of death. Zhen Wushuang at this moment wanted to escape, but he had no way to escape. Because behind him, there are nearly 50 Wangu elders, and in front of him are Zhen Wuyang and Yu Chang. They are the supreme existence in the big division domain, crossing the ages. Such a group of existences surrounded Zhen Wushuang, leaving him with no thought of resisting. But he was not too worried. If Zhen Wuyang didn't want to keep him, he wouldn't have to spend a lot of time to bring him here. The limited news received from Yu Chang's mouth has not been involved in the emperor from the beginning of its birth, and it belongs to the emperor's realm. Zhen Wuyang referred to this place as a waste. Desolate and silent, the only one in eternity. Zhen Wushuang had already guessed that Zhen Wuyang brought him here to strip the emperor body. He sighed inwardly and had to accept reality. As the emperor realm of Zhen Wuyang, the wildness is too barren and oppressive, and Yanli is slowly disappearing here, unable to exist. Nothing can exist, only nothingness is eternal. Here, it is too suitable to strip the emperor body. As he continued to move forward, Zhen Wushuang, whose strength in the fairy body was almost consumed to the limit, began to agitate uncontrollably. He secretly said a bad sound, feeling that there is some power in his body waking up. At the same time, Yu Chang and Zhen Wuyang were also aware. At this moment, all Wangu veterans looked dignified, and then Yanli came out of their palms, turned into chains, and tied Zhen Wushuang together. The coercion squeezed him into speech almost instantly. No, don't do that. I'm going to be suffocated. Zhen Wushuang spoke with difficulty, but in the next moment, an unimaginable general trend burst out from the depths of his fairy body. The magnificence of this general trend actually tore the chains of the whole body Yanli in an instant. Boom! The boundless power exploded, and nearly 50 veterans all flew out. Almost at the same time, Yu Chang also reacted, and thousands of wisps of black ink flicked out of his fingertips, restraining Xiong Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang sneered coldly, and with a wave of his arm, he directly extinguished Yu Chang's offensive. Just relying on you, do you want to trap me? Overestimated. After he finished speaking, he was ready to flee. Want to go? Zhenwu, let's see who I am. With supreme prestige, Zhen Wuyang shouted coldly. Jian Wushuang's eyes were solemn for a moment. Zhen Wuyang, are you not going to let me go? Zhen Wuyang said in a deep voice, why should I let you go? Your destination is the endless sea. I will give you two options. The first is to voluntarily return to the borderless sea, and the second is to be detained here. Shun Shun Dayan shook the entire emperor world. Jian Wushuang smiled demonly. I choose the third way. This 10,000 realms heaven territory has my share. Why do you become a real emperor and I will be banished by you? My appearance means that our identities will be exchanged. Zhen Wuyang snorted coldly. Do you think you have a chance to leave? Or, give it a try. Jian Wushuang laughed arrogantly, and the fairy body quietly exuded endless emperor luck. His chest turned red gold at this moment, with emperor patterns densely covered. Who dares to stop me? Nearly 50 elders of Wangu were completely unable to get close at this moment, or even close to them. Only Zhen Wuyang and Yu Chang can confront each other. At this moment, the crimson gold Emperor Hui suddenly swept and spread, and the vastness of the momentum shocked the entire emperor world. Don't look directly at the emperor. Jian Wushuang raised his hands flat, and endless Dihui began to radiate, and it was wider and more terrifying than in the sea of no edge. Moreover, 6 directions of luck began to be born behind him. Accompanied by the enthusiasm of the 6 directions, is the closed true eyes of the 6 ways. Seeing this change, Zhen Wuyang's expression became solemn. 6 Dao and 6 days true emperor eyes? Yu Chang nodded. Yes, when I was in the endless sea, I had already tasted it. How does it compare to me? Zhen Wuyang looked at him. Yu Chang said, it's about the same. If his emperor body is also free from the shackles of the borderless sea, it will be even harder to say. So, no wonder he is so rampant. Zhen Wuyang said solemnly. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were low, and he said coldly, Zhen Wuyang, let me go, I will leave Darciu now, and I will never disturb him again. If you insist on sealing my town here, I am afraid that the consequences will be unbearable for you. Zhen Wuyang smiled coldly when he heard this. Since I can expel you once, I can expel you a second time. This time, I'm afraid you will stay here forever. Then give it a try. Jian Wushuang yelled, and a sword of the emperor that was completely condensed by Emperor Hui appeared in his palm. With the appearance of the sword of the emperor, his breath changed, and he seemed to be ready to fight to the death. Zhen Wuyang and Yu Chang were also solemn, and their respective emperor's luck was quietly released. As the supreme being, Yanli can no longer carry their luck as the foundation. At the end of the fight, only one's own emperor's luck is the one who fights. In addition to the true Wuyang, Yu Chang also revealed his emperor's luck at this moment. There is no room for 2 masters in one realm, but it is unimaginable that Zhen Wuyang is following an emperor. Chapter 5031. The most important thing is that even though Yu Chang is not an emperor, he devoutly follows Zhen Wuyang, which is the most incredible. 3 true emperors gathered for a battle. With them as the center, even the Wangu elders could not get involved within hundreds of millions of miles. Zhen Wu, do you really dare to fight? Zhen Wuyang continued to pressure. How dare you? Jian Wushuang proudly, his 6 true eyes floating around him, it seemed that he might open it at any time. Zhen Wuyang didn't speak anymore, his whole body also showed 6 true eyes in an instant. The general situation, the real emperor and the emperor war exit. Exit. At this moment, Jian Wushuang and Zhen Wuyang spoke simultaneously. The 2 real eyes of the emperor opened at the same time, and an unimaginable breath of nothingness came over. This kind of intangible aura of nothingness, ignoring any emperor's luck, ignoring any emperor's heaven, is the most domineering. While in the borderless sea, Yu Chang, who was also an emperor, was hit hard, and the emperor body was almost destroyed by nirvana. This is the imperial style of Zhen Wuyang. Even emperors of the same realm have to be extremely vigilant. The invisible and void breath penetrated all the emperor's luck, the emperor's heaven, and came down. Jian Wushuang and Zhen Wuyang's expressions changed at the same time. After that, they retreated 100 feet at the same time. If you look closely, you can see that Zhen Wuyang's emperor body has cracks, and the emperor Hui is fading quickly. But Emperor Zhenwu, who had occupied Jian Wushuang's immortal body, suffered even more serious damage, and the entire immortal body was almost shattered. But Zhoutian Yishuan saved his life, preventing the immortal body from being destroyed. This formula is too terrifying and unreasonable. It goes beyond the meaning of any heavenly Tao or even Yanli Tao. It does not directly cover the emperor's body with any medium. I can't deceive my emperor body. The fairy body was repairing quickly, and Jian Wushuang shouted in anger. Zhen Wuyang smiled coldly. What if I deceive you? Do you really think that you can beat me by escaping from the endless sea? Jian Wushuang stopped talking, smiled gloomily, and the immortal body wrapped by the scarlet golden Dihue suddenly shattered. Countless sacred blood dripped from the cracks, throwing into the void. With the appearance of this abnormal scene, the immortal body is undergoing some strange changes. Thousands of Tao Emperor runes are growing. Yarrow can't look directly at it. Forcibly round and fuse the emperor body. Yu Chang looked solemn. Emperor Zhenwu wants to transform Wushuang's immortal body into an emperor body. What the hell, is this guy looking for death? Does he think that a mere fairy body can withstand the pressure of the emperor body? Zhen Wuyang frowned, half doubting and half angry. Yu Chang was silent, then turned to look at him and said, "This immortal body is not ordinary. I explored it when I was in the endless sea, but I couldn't see through it." Zhen Wuyang continued frowning and said, "But this can't be compared with the emperor, let alone a perfect harmony. I'm afraid, it is really possible." Yu Chang's expression was completely solemn. With the complete fall of this sentence, a gilt 1000 pattern and a louvered warrior suit slowly condensed, falling on Jian Wushuang's fairy body. Zhen Wuyang's expression changed as he wanted to refute, "Is this really an emperor?" "No, it's not completely solidified yet." Yu Chang said in a deep voice, "Once you become an emperor, I'm afraid there will be a big change. Then what are you waiting for? Let's hit it first." Zhen Wuyang drew in a low voice, and a sword of the emperor suddenly condensed in his hand. He severely cut with a sword. In an instant, the mountains and seas were gone, and the earth shattered. The desolate emperor realm, which had been silent for an unknown number of years, was under this sword, rumbled to pieces. But Jian Wushuang, who was already wearing a gilt and 1000-patterned war emperor uniform, calmly, even a coquettish smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Facing the sword of the emperor that smashed the mountains and seas, his arms sank, and the same emperor sword appeared, and then he stood in front of him. Boom! The earth shattered, and the desolate emperor realm was in turmoil. Under this sword, all Wangu elders couldn't get close at all, watching this scene with trepidation. The battle between the emperor and monarch was not something they could lie. If it hadn't been in this wild world, they would have run as far as possible. The hundreds of millions of meters of dust slowly dissipated, leaving only a deep abyss like a prison, and Jian Wushuang's figure was completely gone. Zhen Wuyang and Yu Chang did not relax at all. He did not think that this sword could severely damage Emperor Zhenwu. The next moment, their whole body suddenly fluctuated violently, and a dazzling figure to the extreme, shattered and covered the void. It was a sword, an emperor sword that was completely condensed from Dihue. Jian Wushuang held the emperor sword and slashed down fiercely. Yu Chang raised his head, and a Moqing emperor sword was thrown into the void by him, and it instantly turned into a long rainbow. The two collided, and the endless momentum swept across. The sword has no double-sided color and is cold, barely cut open the Changhong with a single sword, and stand in the void. Yu Chang, this matter has nothing to do with you. This is a matter between Zhen Wuyang and I. Don't interfere anymore. Emperor Zhenwu, stop it. This matter has no result. Yu Chang slowly persuaded. There is no result, then I will fight for a result today. Jian Wushuang shook loudly, and the emperor sword in his hand exploded. If you don't understand, then you will be buried here today, Zhen Wuyang said angrily. Then he walked straight into the air. Huang Huang could not look directly. At this moment, the white shirt on his emperor body disappeared. Instead, he wore a gilt and thousand patterns, and the louvered emperor uniform. With the addition of the emperor's clothes, he returned to the ancient times, struggling horizontally, and even the emperor fell under the sword in his hand. The general situation is brilliant, and the boundless emperor's luck is rebuilding. Emperor, unstoppable. Jian Wushuang's red golden eyes flashed with solemnity and fear. The 6 realms and 6 days of the true emperor's eyes all opened at this moment. Zhen Wuyang walked in the air, and the emperor's sword in his hand slashed forward without any hesitation. Jian Wushuang did not retreat, and his eyes were sharp, holding the emperor's sword towards Zhen Wuyang. The emperor's swords are facing each other, and the emperor world of the desert screams. The sky is shattered and the earth is cracked. When Yu Chang saw this, Com hurriedly reached out to release the emperor's luck to repair the broken void and earth. For the emperor, it couldn't be easier to destroy any heaven or secret world. Not to mention, this is a struggle between the emperor, and the escape of air is enough to destroy everything. If Yu Chang does not stop it, the entire wilderness will be instantly fragmented. The emperor fights with the emperor, and the emperor shines on promise. With eyes facing each other, Jian Wushuang's eyes only left Senran killing intent and resentment. But Zhen Wuyang's eyes were indifferent, as if he was doing something as it should. Zhen Wuyang, you want me to fall? How is this possible? Not only will I not die, but I will also show you a good life, completely smash your big division domain, and be buried with you. I will let you taste the taste of exile. Chapter 50-32. The emperor was angry, and the mountains and seas were wiped out. At this moment, the entire wild emperor realm, even with the blessing of Emperor Yu Chang's luck, was on the verge of collapse. Di Hui was bright, and the 2 emperor bodies collided fiercely. The emperor swords collided, Jian Wushuang had sharp eyebrows, and only endless murderous intent remained in the red golden emperor pupils. The 4 eyes were facing each other, and trillions of emperor's luck bloomed from behind him, and then they all blasted towards Zhen Wuyang. Where this luck passes, everything turns into dust, even the void. Every strand of the emperor's luck, like a blooming fairy chrysanthemum petals, completely wrapped Zhen Wuyang and burst out. Boom, boom. Yu Chang's emperor's luck was dissipated under this slaying explosion, and all Wangu elders who wanted to rush forward to help were knocked off. The entire desolate emperor realm was in complete chaos, and everything was broken. Almost at the same time that the emperor's luck exploded, Jian Wushuang quickly backed away, and a pair of cold eyes, the emperor pupil calmly looked at the center of the sacrificial explosion. This slaying explosion surpassed the Great Avenue and the law of strength, and only the emperor could control and release it. The magnificent and resplendent explode covered and swallowed the desolate emperor world that had been silent since its birth. And Yu Chang's task at this moment is to do his best to preserve this deserted emperor realm. Jian Wushuang stood in the void, looking coldly at Zhen Wuyang, who was entangled in the sacrificial explosion. He was originally a handsome and heroic face. At this moment, he added a bit of coquettishness. He is confident that although Zhen Wuyang will not fall, he will definitely suffer unimaginable damage. But the next moment, the result was quite different from what he thought. In the shattered and burning Dihui, a figure that straddled the eternal heavenly Tao slowly stepped out. The violent detonation, the thousands of burning Emperor's luck, couldn't shake him half a point, and he shrank when he touched him. Emperor Jian Wushuang's eyes widened, and he stepped back subconsciously. Zhen Wuyang didn't suffer the slightest damage, only the war emperor uniform on the emperor body was slightly damaged. His eyes became more gloomy and cold, as if returning to the pinnacle of ancient times. Facing Jian Wushuang, he raised his right hand to be straighter. In an instant, the endless emperor heaven was concentrated in this finger, advancing without hindrance. Before he could think, He directly raised the sword of the emperor and blocked him, hoping to stop Zhen Huayang's blow. But the result was beyond his imagination. Under this finger, the sword of the emperor broke instantly, and Jian Wushuang's chest collapsed directly. At this moment, even Zhu Tianyishen was dimmed. He flew up to 1,000,000 feet. At the same time, Zhen Wuyang followed closely. He completely abandoned the sword of the emperor and slammed Jian Wushuang's body with his fists empty. Boom! With a punch, the emperor Heavenly Dao collapsed directly, and he was blasted into the abyss before he could even make a sound. The earth was broken, and the entire wilderness was almost unbearable. And Zhen Wuyang did not stop at all, blasting the earth out of the abyss, and he immediately followed up again. In the next moment, under the abyss, hundreds of millions of emperor splendor suddenly bloomed, bombarding the desolate world in fragment. Yu Chang's face changed slightly, his emperor's luck could not be stopped, and he was shattered by the burst of Emperor Hui. The plain was shattered, and all Wangu veterans on the periphery were shocked. But none of them flinched for a while. Instead they all released their own Qi Yun Tian Dao to repair the desolate world that was on the verge of destruction. With the burst of Dihui, the entire plain began to shake and collapse. Then, a body shaped like a big sun star was blasted out from the depths of the earth. At this moment, the gilt 1,000-patterned war emperor's suit was burning. Zhen Wuyang then stepped out of the abyss and slammed Jian Wushuang's heart with a punch. The emperor body is broken directly. In an instant, the thousands of emperor's luck gushing out from behind are like blooming fairy chrysanthemum petals. The emperor's blood that contained the shackles of numerology then spilled into the void. His emperor's eyes were wide open, and he couldn't believe it. This really happened too quickly, almost instantaneously, leaving him without any backhand ability. This was almost a unilateral beheading. Zhen Wuyang broke the emperor's body with strength. Jian Wushuang stretched out his hands to cover his heart. The mysterious thing is that although Zhu Tianyishen was dimmed to the extreme, it was not broken at all, and no scar was left. But what is certain is that the emperor body under Zhu Shinianixuan has indeed been shattered. The emperor's luck was flowing and disappearing. Zhen Wuyang stood in the shattered void, and did not take the next step, but calmly looked at Jian Wushuang. The emperor's uniform on his body was also shattered, and he had obviously experienced a battle under the abyss. Coughing out a wisp of emperor blood, Jian Wushuang's aura was languid, and the pair of red-golden emperor pupils were a little dim. True Wuyang, you are still as vicious as ever, not only cruel to all creatures, but even more cruel to yourself. For your own purposes, you do everything you can. Jian Wushuang smiled, half joking and half earnestly. I thought I was terribly evil, but now I want to come. You are terribly evil. Have you said enough? Zhen Wuyang sounded without emotion, then raised his palm. In the palm of his hand, the endless emperor heaven is building, which is enough to destroy all enemies. How can I say enough? I'm bit by bit of your evil deeds, and I don't want to leave them out. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, his handsome and evil spirit to the extreme. Looking for death. Zhen Wuyang's expression wrinkled, and the emperor Heavenly Dao in his hand came down directly. But then, everything changed again. Sword Paradox, whose breath was already sluggish, smiled awkwardly and shook his arms, and actually shattered Zhen Wuyang's emperor Heavenly Dao. You thought I was lost, but you have to know the variables. Boom! The unparalleled emperor's luck broke out completely, as if the tide of mountains and seas swept across the entire wilderness in an instant. This emperor's air luck is the purest and most extreme emperor's air luck. How is it possible that the emperor body is completely mellow? Yu Chang could no longer remain indifferent, and said aloud, "S muddy eyes became clear." And Zhen Wuyang was also solemn. He never thought that Emperor Zhen Wu, who had almost fallen in the last moment, would completely recover in the next moment, and even become more terrifying. The broken war emperor's clothes turned into crimson lava, covering and blessing on Jian Wushuang's emperor body. The fully integrated imperial body is really comfortable. I haven't felt this way for a long time. He slowly raised his arms and said in a selfless manner, Zhen Wuyang, I really want to thank you for giving me a perfect emperor body. In return, I will return everything I have done to you intact. He screamed loudly, endless Emperor Hui swept across, crushing to Zhen Wuyang. At this time, Yu Chang didn't wait and see anymore. The emperor body came to his side in a flash, and together resisted Emperor Hui. This time, it was my miscalculation. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.